Dunia kian berubah, perubahan melingkari.
ASEAN aims to transform itself into a single free trade area, and we are well on our way. ASEAN seeks to position itself as a long-term economic power player around the globe, and together with other large developing economies such as China, Brazil, and India. And in this context, Muslims have much to gain, everything to gain, in fact, and little to lose by committing ourselves and binding ourselves in such an economic community. Amongst religious adherents of Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and others, we hope to witness this in the very near future, the fascinating rise of ASEAN, and concomitant to this, our efforts to ensure that ASEAN is a community that can live in harmony within its borders and within ASEAN as a community. There are almost 220 million ASEAN Muslims. This makes them the largest or the biggest religious group in ASEAN, and therefore a major stakeholder in ASEAN's future. Muslims must develop into a proportionately productive force for the good of not only Muslims but of the entire ASEAN community. It is clear that ASEAN Muslim communities can and should engage with the wider world. We must be ready to take advantage of the many opportunities that ASEAN offers us. At the same time, we must also be prepared to tackle the many challenges that ASEAN will put in our path. We must heed the call of the Earth Charter, a United Nations global instrument for the collective effort of the human race to take up shared responsibility in achieving sustainable global society founded on respect for universal human rights, for nature, for economic justice, and underpinning what we call a culture of peace. As Muslims, we must commit ourselves to enhancing our competitiveness in order to play a contributing role to the advancement of human civilization, as was the legacy of the Islamic Ummah in the past. The rich and vibrant heritage of Muslims must be put back into the very heart of ASEAN politics and culture. I believe that our way forward, if Muslims communities want to seek a wider and more active role in ASEAN, needs to take into account these three important imperatives. Firstly, we must strengthen Muslim togetherness through the worldview of Islam to renew the spirit of unity and the bond of community amongst Muslims. Secondly, we must respect the principles of diversity. Differences in terms of religious traditions, culture, languages, and skin color must be duly appreciated. Thirdly, we must establish social justice based on the timeless universal religious principles. It is the concern for the welfare of the poor, the consideration for the economically needy, the indigent, and the deprived. It is through social justice that the liberation of the human potential will be fully realized. On the one hand, these Muslims should be made to understand that they must live under current national governments. They must eschew violence. They must forget this idea of having an independent Muslim state, which is not realistic. These Muslims must recognize the true responsibilities within the current nation states and contribute to the utmost to the moral and socio-economic strengths of the nation. Having said that of the Muslims, on the other hand, we must understand them and grant them a degree of autonomy, if you like. Not independence, but autonomy. And to understand them, their sensitivities. And Muslims must also understand the sensitivities of non-Muslims as well. That is fundamental. Clearly, the challenge for ASEAN Muslims is enormous. However, playing the role of a regional player is not something new to Muslims. We have played that very role centuries ago when Pasai, Malacca, Ampel, and Aceh functioned as great trading centers, which contributed towards transmitting universal wisdom and sciences to this part of the world. I believe if we return to this, we have it within ourselves to play an active role, a productive role, a beneficial role in a more dynamic ASEAN once again, inshallah.